Thank you, Glenda, and happy holidays to you all. I think I'm busy. It sounds like I'm doing a few things, and I'm going to build on what Bill said and what Stephen said, and thank you both for great presentations. I run a software company, and so I have a lot of meetings with software developers, and we had a routine development meeting every week, really from the day that I started the company. And at one point, what I found is that I would go into these meetings and there would be a problem or an opportunity. I would offer a solution, and the developers across the table from me would appear to me to be blockers. They would argue, they would offer excuses, what I perceived to be excuses about why this couldn't happen, why we shouldn't do that, we have to wait. And the perception that I had was that they were being naughty, that they were being combative, that they didn't respect me or care as much about the business as I did, and it was counterproductive and destructive. And through no planning or process that I put in place, we had hired an HR consultant because we were hiring some salespeople, and this HR consultant recommended that we put the job applicants through an assessment protocol called the Colby A assessment. And we were very impressed with this assessment that sort of looks at what are the instinctive and what they call the conative approaches and energies that people put toward problems. How do they solve a problem? What's the first instinctive approach to solving a problem? And we liked the assessment so much that we decided to put all of our employees through the process, and we decided to share with one another the results. And what those results showed is that I, as a founder and an entrepreneur and a leader, have what's called a quick start energy and a quick start instinct. I look at a problem and I want to ready, fire, aim more than analyze. Software engineers have a different approach. Typically. They are much more about analysis and thinking through the problem. And those who are extreme on that end of the spectrum, without any of the quick start energy, will suffer from analysis paralysis. Those who are all about quick start energy and none of the analysis energy are going to suffer from being reckless. Having some combination of the two is good, and understanding where your employees are will help you solve the problems that I was describing. And what resulted from that information was a process and a system. We began to set agendas for our meetings in advance so that the ideas that I had very quickly and easily, and here's how we're going to solve this problem, were presented to the developers in advance so that they could do their analysis before we sat down together. We agreed that it was okay to table ideas if an issue arose at the meeting and my response was, here's how we're going to solve it. It was okay with me and as a group that the process was, wait, let's have the developers go and make sure that there are not better alternatives, give them the opportunity to analyze. I've oversimplified a process, but the point here is that as a result of taking information, putting it into a process, and building a way that we worked as a team that was predictable and repeatable and teachable, we actually had meetings that were shorter. We had meetings that were much more productive. We had meetings that were much less combative. And we had much better outcomes in terms of the time from idea to production of effective software. Measurable outcomes. Project time shrunk, the quality of the product improved. So I share that story with you as first example of a few more that I'm going to share about how my business uses systems and takes systematic approaches to operate more effectively, to grow more quickly, for me to live a life that is more healthy and happy and personally fulfilling and more productive for our workplace. So I'm going to present to you 4 more examples from my company. And they all fall in one or more of the categories that we like to talk about here at E4E: run, grow, and live. And the first one is a run system that we have in place. The principle here is that any and every business problem or challenge that you may encounter can be solved with a system-based solution. So, what's the problem? Oops. We were noticing that our customer retention rate was not as high as we wanted. We sell software, and it's a subscriber model, so somebody signs up for the software and has to renew the contract each year. And we were recognizing that we would like our retention, our renewal rate, to be higher. That will affect the bottom line. And so we asked the question, how can we put in place systems? What are some solutions that we can put in place to solve this problem? And in that conversation, we talked about a more precise question, which is how can we identify existing customers who are at risk of leaving? And this is an example of one very small but simple and effective system. We send out an email newsletter on a regular basis. And the people who receive that newsletter include our customers. Well, what we do is we look using the tracking software that our email system uses, the MarketVolt email marketing system can tell you who opened, who clicked, and who opted out. And we put in a very simple system that said a few days after we send out the email, go and look at this list of people who opted out and cross-reference that list against our customer base and cross-reference it also against our trouble ticket, our support ticket system, and identify which of those people are existing customers who have said, I don't want to hear from you anymore. Now, in many cases, it might be an existing customer, but they opted out because they left, or it's no longer their job. And the account representatives would know it. But oftentimes we'd see a correlation. Oh, that person opted out, and by the way, they've had a number of support tickets over the last 2 or 3 months. So the next step in the system is the account representative, who as a matter of routine is reaching out to customers anyway, picks up the phone, puts those people at the top of the reach out list. How's it going? What's going on? Just wanted to check in. And oftentimes the response is, well, we're having some issues. But now you have an account rep attentive to that, out in front of the problem, or at least more in front of the problem than they would have otherwise been. And implementing this simple system has resulted in higher retention rates and fewer clients leaving. Second, grow system. How do we grow our business? So, one of the systems that we put in place was to host webinars, 5 and 25 webinars on marketing tips. So, the problem is we were using one webinar system and people would register and then we would have to download things. How do we make a process more efficient and sell more quickly without having to juggle balls and wrestle with technology? Well, what we've done is using technology, we integrate a sign-up form so that people who sign up for the webinar automatically go and register for the webinar system using a form that we can control. It's better looking than the forms that Stealth Seminar or GoToWebinar provide us. So a better looking form, higher registration rates, and we simultaneously automate through a process, putting them in the database of our email marketing system. Then, when they register for the event, we have a system in place, part of the step of the system, to automatically send a reminder email to them. And that reminder email says, show up at the webinar. Then the webinar system automatically will tag who attended and who didn't. And out of that process, automated process, we're able to launch an autoresponder. Hey, sorry you missed the webinar, or hey, thanks for attending the webinar. Here are the things we promised, or the additional information. All of it runs as an automated system, autopilot, and when we use the Stealth Seminar system, those webinars are running sort of as if live, but they're running automatically. The GoToWebinar system we use for live presentations. So we set this up, and we set it up, and it runs automatically, and we generate more leads, and we close more sales, and grow our business more quickly for having put in a system like this. Here's another grow system. John Ayers, who runs a great teleprospecting firm. We hired John, and when we hired John to make phone calls, one of the things we said is, okay, our primary call to action is, will you take a meeting with client X, who we're representing? But there's a secondary call to action. Whether or not you take the meeting, will you opt in to receive some email thing that we'll send to you? Now, the way that it used to work, and the problem that we were trying to solve, is how do we speed up the process of interacting with those people who opt in? How do we make the process more efficient and less time consuming? The way it used to work is the callers would make a bunch of calls over the course of a day, and at the end of the day, they would send a spreadsheet much like this. Here are the people who said yes, here are the people who said no. We'd take those people who said yes, upload them into the email system at the end of the day, and send emails. What we now do is make this spreadsheet an online spreadsheet. And when we did this with you for the first time, John, that was a change for your folks. Use Google spreadsheets, not an Excel spreadsheet. Because we set up a Google spreadsheet that automatically, as soon as that yes was added to that row, the automated technology sent it to the internet, to MarketVolt, and as soon as that happened, an email landed. So within minutes after hanging up the phone and saying, sure, I'll take that thing that you're promising, the email lands, and the process is now much more efficient, much less time consuming, and in the end, much more effective. And now finally, one about Liv. How do I, as a hardworking guy with a lot of balls in the air, work more productively, work more efficiently, get more done, and how can we put in systems and processes that other employees can employ that are fundamentally achieving the same thing? Here I am at my desk most days for many, 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 many hours. What I have learned to do is implement a very, very simple system that says I'm going to pre-schedule blocks of time, activities, for 45 to 50 minutes. And if I know that the activity that I'm working on, the task that I'm working on, is going to take more time than that, I'll set aside 2 blocks of time. But without fail, at the end of 45 to 50 minutes, and I run a timer next to my desk, I get up. And I either walk around, take a 10-minute walk. Sometimes I'll turn out the lights and just sort of meditate or relax. But regardless of what it is, it sets aside the stress, it sets aside the angst, and it allows me to rejuvenate. So when I return to my desk 10 minutes later, I am refreshed and I am ready to go. Very quickly, a few resources. Oh, and I repeat that every hour. No questions asked. A few quick resources. I mentioned Kolbe. You could go online today and take the Kolbe assessment, 49 bucks, I think, 59 bucks maybe, and you get the results instantly. Very, very, very helpful on all sorts of levels, not just on the interpersonal, but the intrapersonal. It instructs when I perform certain tasks. It's very helpful. Work the system. It's invaluable. A second book, something called Predictable Revenue, is a book that really outlines very, very well systems that you can put in place. It's not for all businesses and all industries, but systems that you can put in place to build marketing funnels and grow your business predictably. And finally, Getting Things Done. There are all sorts of sort of process and productivity systems. And I like this book. I read this book. Kathy Sexton is an expert. I would turn to her website and to her resources. The key point is turn to some approach and some system that helps you focus on getting things done more effectively. So I have time for questions. Yes, Les.
Go back to the slide where you had that.
So in this particular case, so sometimes when we're promoting a webinar, we're promoting it to people who are already in our email database. But this particular program, this webinar program that we put in place, the strategy and the goal was attract new leads. And so what we did is we set up a landing page that said, hey, we have this webinar program, and we used a variety of different lead attraction methods. We promoted it via LinkedIn. We did a little search engine marketing. We did a little Facebook marketing. We talked about it when I would speak. Go to 5 and 25. And so we were capturing people who were not already part of our database. Now, if somebody signs up who already is in this database, the system just tags them as signed up for the webinar. So they're still getting stuff, but again, systematically, we're able to sort existing clients from non-clients from, warm prospects.
Other than LinkedIn, what are some of your other resources for generating leads?
Search marketing, certainly. Word of mouth. Our company still operates on, to some extent as a local company, and so speaking opportunities like this are often a great way for us to engage new leads. But for this program in particular, LinkedIn marketing was very effective, and Josh Turner, who has been an E4E expert here, and a lot of the ideas that he preaches were very effective for us in this campaign. Yes, Mark.
So I noticed in this surprise lot field,
So there are a few questions in that. How do you work with a non-systems guy who to put systems in place? So I'll answer that first by citing Kolbe real quickly. So one of the four sort of types within Kolbe is follow through. And I'm not that great at follow through. I'm more sort of multitask and do a lot of things and work, let deadlines push me to get things done. And working within systems is not my strength either. One of the things that I've learned are those things that really demand systematic work. So billing, getting invoices out, entering leads into a CRM. Those things are the things that I'm instinctively not as good at. I actually do those things first thing in the morning when my physical energy is highest, because it requires more physical energy because it's not as natural for me to do. So systems about how I organize my day are set up to reflect what I'm good at. The other way to do it is to delegate that responsibility to somebody who is good at it. You don't have to do everything. You have to know what you're good at and ask people to do those things that they're good at. The other quick response, Mark, is if you have a system in place that this is the time cutoff for when we deliver, if you are committed to the idea that sometimes there's going to be some flexibility in that, at least have a definition of what are the conditions that allow me to do that, What are the conditions that don't? So in effect, you're still working within a system. You're just predefining the flexibility. Is it we do it for major clients, we do it if we screwed up something? What are the conditions that allow you to be flexible? If you're making it up as you go along, it's whack-a-mole. Yeah. So thank you all very much. I'll be here for the rest of the day. And